academy, it's time to take a breather.
To the three ladies sitting right in front of me, I want you to know that we are very proud of you. Today it's all about how you presented right in front of us. As judges, we felt that Lynette Marvel, today you are the weakest link on the bench. But we're so proud of you having come this far, and we'd like to encourage you. Bogita Foundation needs to be spread out to other parts of the country, and other strategies or initiatives that you have. We want to believe that as an academy, we are in the capacity to support you in whichever way we can. Thank you. To those who are left in the academy, it will get tougher for you, just as it will get more difficult for the judges to make the decision. So fight for your space so that we get the best of the best for the ultimate title of Miss President Kenya.
And now, a quick look at the contestants still in the academy, and the contestants are competing at an individual level. Now, let's meet our esteemed judges for this episode.
I'm Dr. Zipporah Okoth. I'm a lecturer of film and theatre arts at Kenyatta University. I'm also the founder of the Lake International Pan-African Film Festival. I'm a gender consultant and a performing artist. I'm looking for people who are informed, presentable, firm, and have a purpose.
Hi, I'm Jerry Kirene. I work in the policy environment, helping various small groups lobby for better laws for business. I'm a tough judge. I'm no nonsense. The minute you come before me, you better know your stuff. If you don't, well, you can only expect a challenge.
My name is Irongo Houghton, and I'm the Chief Strategist and Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya. For the last 5 years, I've been very passionate and very committed to raising citizens that act higher themselves and act in the interests of the public.
Tonight's show kicks off with 5 contestants, from 70 to 5 in a span of 21 weeks. Amazing! Who will be crowned Miss President 3 weeks from now? Question, however, is Kenya ready for a female president? Our topic tonight, international relations. Now, international relation is becoming increasingly relevant as the world grows more and more interconnected through trade and commerce, migration, the internet, and through social media, and concerns about pressing global environmental problems. So what will our contestants learn about the relevance of this to the presidency? And what will your take home or your takeaway be? In the next series of episodes, the tasks get more complex, and a lot of thought and consideration must be given before the eliminations. Now, as you know, each episode is filmed over a span of 2 days. Siku ya kwanza, training, and a possible site visit. Ya pili focuses on presentations, nominations, and eliminations. Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected, and they are battling it out at the academy, where they are going through a process of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations, and eliminations to eventually be elected Miss President. Together, let us follow each stage of this competition and watch these very capable women try to convince the judges and you at home, myself included, why they should make it to the next stage of the competition. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. The gears have shifted, the terrain is getting tougher, and you can feel the tension, the nerves, but also the quick comebacks, wit and resilience of each one of our contestants as they continue on this path to leadership. Haya, turudi darasani sasa. What constitutes international relations exactly? Trade? travel, cooperation, culture. Sijui, I'm looking forward to Mwalimu's lessons for today, so sijui tumsikize.
My name is Zuki Waita, and I'm the founder and lead consultant of Impact Pathway Solutions Limited, a development and management consultancy specializing in institutional strengthening, leadership development, negotiation, trade, and investment facilitation.
So kama kawaida tumkaribishe Nzuki. So good to see you.
Nice to see you again, Jimmy.
Good to see you. Well done, well done.
So, how do you define international relations? It's the way in which two or more nations interact with and regard each other, especially in the context of political, economic, and cultural relationships. So we'll now look at the importance of international relations for women in leadership. And for here, I look at four major buckets: trade, travel, cooperation, culture. When we look at trade, international relations promotes successful trade policies between nations. When you look at cooperation, international relationship comes in again strong, to allow nations to cooperate with one another, pool resources together, and share information as a way to face global issues that go beyond one particular country or region. For example, global warming is a multi-state issue. So this is where cooperation is really necessary. Outbreaks of Asian flu, Ebola, these are situations that demand several states to come together and cooperate to solve the problem. Then you have culture. International relations advances human culture through cultural exchanges, diplomacy, and policy development. It encourages travel related to business, to immigration, to tourism, and providing people with opportunities to enhance their life. So these are the four core areas I see as the importance for international relations for leaders. Want to look at who the actors are in the international relations stage. So you have the state and the non-state actors. States are obviously the states, the countries, the sovereign states, the member states. But then you also have the non-state actors. Now, with the non-state actors, under intergovernmental organizations, these are formal associations of states created by treaty or by charter. They exist for several purposes. Usually it's cooperation, security, regulation, economics, educational, and cultural aims. The most important IGO is the United Nations. Can you name me, apart from the WTO, UN, and NATO, other intergovernmental organizations?
The AU?
The AU, yes.
COMESA?
COMESA. So all these are formed by either agreements or by charters. Then you have the multinationals. These are companies that have operations in more than one country. Their size and their ability to influence government policies is so strong, even sometimes stronger than states themselves. So I've given a few examples: General Electric, BP, ExxonMobil, Toyota, Nestle, Siemens. Can I have three more? And tell me how you think they influence policy, governments.
I'd give an example of FIFA.
Yes.
Soccer is one of those games that is played in very many countries.
How do they influence?
So how they influence is, for example, when there's a World Cup going on, the kind of economic influence that particular tournament has influences the participating nations, the country where it participates, and all these other countries who want to buy in TV rights into showing the games. It also influences the economic space of the different countries that then participate in the tournament.
Well, Coca-Cola is basically in every part of the world. Of course, providing the soda, but also, offering opportunities for employment for citizens of whatever country that is. And they contribute heavily to income that the government of the day, earns from taxes, that they are paid. And because of that, they do have a stake, in the ongoings of countries, and I think their voice matters.
Okay. Then you have the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations. These are legal entities that are independent of governments and are not businesses. Most are operational, which means that they deliver services such as welfare, relief, or campaigning. And they can influence government policies, especially in areas like environment and human rights. So I've put Action Against Hunger, Oxfam, World Food Programme. Can we name 3 others?
Tetra Tech, US-based, but actually works regionally within East Africa. And so they've done a lot of work in climate change, and have been able to sit down with the IALA, the Legislative Assembly, and ensure that we have policies towards climate change, and then they've lobbied for funding and bring it down, and they're even doing wildlife conservation around forest.
So across the world, we have a faith-based organization that is called Caritas.
Yes.
Now Caritas, the Catholic-based organization. They operate in different countries in the world, and in Kenya they operate in the areas of water and agriculture, and also issues of HIV and AIDS. So they're really vocal in getting counties and national governments to just listen to their point of views, and even have them inputted in government, like how governments make their own decisions. Yes.
Red Cross?
Yes.
Often they usually have the first response in the event of crisis and emergencies.
Right.
And then I'll also mention the Global Peace Foundation. They're an international organization that influence policies in different countries.
A formerly just mentioned non-state actor, but is now emerging to be quite important, are the terrorist groups. But they're not considered as legitimate actors in international relations because they operate outside the law. Yet somehow, through their activities, they do influence government policies on security, government policies on youth, government policies on internal security, and so forth. We come to the bread and butter of international relations, and this is diplomacy. Diplomacy is a machinery for action. It's recognized as official machinery for the conduct of relations between nations. Diplomacy acts through settled procedures. So it functions through a network of embassies, foreign offices, legations, consulates, and special missions all over the world, and works according to very defined and set protocols, procedures and protocols. The breakdown of diplomacy always would lead to a crisis. So what is the role of diplomacy in leadership? The diplomats of a nation are the symbolic representatives of the state. Then there's representation. A diplomat formally represents his country in a foreign state. Then there's the negotiation function. There's the reporting function, which involves the observation of the political, economic, military, and social conditions in the host country, and the accurate transmission of the findings of the diplomat to his home country. Then there's the protection of interest function, where diplomacy is always at work for protecting and promoting interests of the nation and its people living abroad. Okay, that ends my class on international relations.
In Kenya, the ministry that deals with international relations is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, led by Cabinet Secretary Dr. Monica Juma, and whose mission is to project, promote, and protect Kenya's interests and image globally through innovative diplomacy and contribute towards a just, peaceful, and equitable world. We are happy to receive a visitor at the Academy today from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ababu Namwamba, who is a Chief Administrative Secretary, or as we refer to them, CAS Foreign Affairs and International Trade.
I'm glad to be here and to talk about a subject that, number one, is my business today in terms of what I do for our nation, for our country. And so when you talk about diplomacy, it's just the skill, the practice of managing international relations. The relations between countries, either bilaterally meaning one-on-one, one country to the other one. But then there's also the multilateral level, where you have more players, more countries. The highest multilateral level, of course, would be the United Nations, which is the meeting of the whole world. And that's where the world sets the agenda for the globe, whether you're talking environment, whether you're talking trade. That is really the platform. The world diplomatic face is becoming more and more female, more and more finer, as it were. And it's not by accident that the last 2 cabinet secretaries for foreign affairs in Kenya have been ladies of real substance, in the person of Ambassador Amina Mohammed, and now Ambassador Dr. Monica Juma. Absolutely amazing ladies. And you see truly strong leadership in the form of women who have taken on the responsibility, either of leading their countries or being the face of the diplomacy or the diplomatic face of their nation. So you are in a very good spot, in a very good moment, I would say.
There is growing concern among many Kenyans who feel that they are not safe while working and living in the Middle Eastern countries. So I pray that you expound more on Kenya's thinking as far as relations with Middle Eastern countries is concerned.
So those challenges are bound in a number of places. What the government is doing right now is to formalize the arrangement under which these people go to these countries, because it has been rather amorphous and informal. So these people end up there. Some of them are trafficked. Some of them go through agencies that are not even formal. They're not registered. So what we're trying to do is to do agreements between Kenya formally. Like we have done an agreement with the United Arab Emirates. We've done an agreement with Saudi. And this is happening one by one, just to make sure that now we have a formal platform.
We have a lot of missed opportunities, especially now that you appreciate the role of women, because those young girls who cannot get to the universities to study international relations and are interested are missed out. I don't know whether there is an opportunity for you to legislate, especially on the Foreign Services Academy, to see how we can use that to tap a lot of talent that is still lying idle.
There has been a very strong affirmative action at the ministry to encourage young ladies to intern. Right now, we have a very large number of young, fresh graduates, young Kenyan women who are interning at the ministry, which is a good thing, because it's providing them an opportunity to see the world of diplomacy up close and to make up their minds whether this is what they want to do with the rest of their careers. You may want to know that Amina Mohammed joined the ministry 30 years ago as a cadet, straight from university, and so she's a very good example of an officer that has grown through the ministry from the very lowest level. And so I encourage young ladies, and young men too, boy child, don't be left out. Don't be left out. That there's opportunity for young Kenyans to join the service.
For me, what I took home today was that our relationship with foreign countries is not just restricted on the persons that we send to represent us. Even how we relate over the internet, how we relate on social issues, how we relate in our businesses has a very direct influence in how this country runs, how we move forward in pushing our agendas, and how we relate with other nations from across the world.
I actually didn't know about the categories, especially to do with non-state actors. I didn't know that the different multinationals we know of out there, the different NGOs, even groups like the Al-Shabaabs and all that they play a factor in the whole aspect of diplomacy.
Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected, and they are battling it out at the academy, where they are going through a process of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations, and eliminations to eventually be elected Miss President. Together, let us follow each stage of this competition and watch these very capable women try to convince the judges and you at home, myself included, why they should make it to the next stage of the competition. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. A quick summary of today's training. The 4 main points, or buckets as Mwalimu calls them, for international relations are trade, travel, cooperation, culture.
So you've been made Kenya's ambassador to the US. While understanding the role of diplomacy, how will you go about promoting Kenya's interest to the Trump administration during your tour of duty? You'll be given your credentials, they have been accepted by Trump, you've had your chat, you've walked out, day 1, you have 4 years to promote Kenya's interests to his administration.
We have come to the end of day 1. Each one of the contestants will have to come up with their own presentations and response to the assignment given. Day 2, and here we are. Remember, each assignment will be judged as a work of an individual, and I am so looking forward to seeing the presentations.
Today, I want to talk to you about international relations, focusing on the untold story of undocumented Kenyans living in the United States. This issue matters to us as Kenyans because Kenyans living in the diaspora are a big source of revenue, with their annual remittances to Kenya totaling to a whopping $1.2 billion in the year 2012. And out of this, a total of $315 million was coming in from the United States. As Kenyan ambassador to the US, I would seek audience with President Trump and his administration to negotiate what I call sustainable partnership arena for settlement and support of Kenyans living in the US, acronymed as SPAS. So how exactly would SPAS work? SPAS would increase specifically access to Kenyan consulate services in additional states. SPAS would motivate undocumented Kenyans to come in and register and get temporary paperwork without the fear of being arrested or being deported. And with this access, then they would be able to access social services. SPAS would also support those who want to return to Kenya with the necessary paperwork to do so. And lastly, SPAS would be a safe space for reporting human rights abuses, for investigation and prosecution according to US law.
United States is Kenya's 3rd largest destination for Kenya's export. We export a lot of tea, coffee to such countries. The African Growth, the AGOA, is a United States Trade Act which allows free market access to our goods in America. If you look at what's happening currently, there's a renewal of this agreement that's coming up in the year 2025. And as an ambassador, it is my duty to ensure that we stay at the focal front. My job is to ensure Kenyans in the US are eligible, competitive, and get the necessary paperwork to work there. And also, I would work on ways to encourage and facilitate these same Kenyans to come back and invest in their own country. The other one would be aid in critical areas such as health and education and youth. And as I summarize, I would like to recommend a book that I've been reading called Kenya's 50 Years of Diplomatic Engagement, a book that will influence your thoughts and ensure that you have vast knowledge on diplomacy. Thank you so much.
Kenya and US have enjoyed good cordial relationships since United States established a diplomatic relationship with Kenya back in 1964. I am happy to report that the Kenya-US bilateral relationships have realized significant gains for both our countries. The first one that I will talk about is that the US granted Jomo Kenyatta International Airport the last point of departure status, allowing to facilitate for direct flights between our countries. And this will help us in ensuring that Kenya becomes an attractive destination for trade, investment, and tourism for the US market. The US trade relationships are largely anchored on the AGOA enactment of 2010, and I am happy to note that this has been extended to 2025, meaning that our bilateral relationships will continue. As I assume office of the Ambassador of Kenya, I promise to advance our economic interests with the US I look forward to pursuing network opportunities for the young people in both countries because I believe that shared best practice and cultural diversity between young people of both nations will enable and ensure that we have a unified global community for the future generation.
Diplomats have to promote the economic and social cultures of their sending countries, while at the same time appreciating different cultures of the receiving state. A diplomat also represents the sending state. And now this is very important because in the eyes of the many citizens of the country where he is coming from and the country that he is going to, he serves as the face of Kenya. We are enjoying the first direct flights from US to Kenya as a result of the negotiations between Kenya and the US, and the diplomat is right on the middle of it. However, modern day international relations have the president taking a very active role in how we relate with other countries. Kenya is one of the beneficiaries of the AGOA Act. Now, with this extension that he lobbied for, from 2022 to 2025, Kenya will actually have an increment of trade exports moving from 32 billion to close to 42 billion.
I want to talk about how my role will influence healthcare in every household. I want to make sure I negotiate, use my team at the embassy to negotiate such that all the practical experience is done at our public healthcare facilities. Our youth are always using the Googles. You remember when they're watching the videos? Yes, there is virtual reality. Can we use that to do counseling, for example? Our outputs, we want to increase in numbers for healthcare workers. Equipment will remain in the facilities. We'll have training on the use of equipment, but I'll monitor them by having an information management system. Quarterly investor forums. I'll also track the diaspora so that we engage them. They get involved in our work. And then, of course, health worker database, who is trained, SMS-based employment search, and make sure we bring and deliver healthcare services effectively. I want to thank you for that understanding in basic, simple language. Thank you.
But what will the judges think about the presentations? Have all of them brought their game on? The person with the highest nominations has a very high chance of being sent home.
We were specifically asked to put ourselves in the shoes of a diplomat, but she chose to craft a different question.
A speech is not something that you do every day, while the assignment perhaps wanted to look at something that you do like for 5 years because you're not an ambassador in an event.
How she took herself out of that diplomacy position and spoke about something different. So I felt she didn't deliver on the assignment correctly.
But I felt that within the context of what we had been taught on the lessons, I think she missed it a bit.
It was out of context because we'd been given a format instead in the assignment.
Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected and they are battling it out at the academy where they are going through a process of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations and eliminations to eventually be elected Miss President. Together, let us follow each stage of this competition and watch these very capable women try to convince the judges and you at home, myself included, why they should make it to the next stage of the competition. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants.
We are down to 5 contestants. What a journey it has been for them. But then tonight, one of them's journey ends. According to the judges, Judge Njeri, it's good to see you. Our guest, Judge Horton, Judge Zippy. The presentations, the thought process, the concepts have become better by the episode.
Well, I just have to start by saying thanks very much for allowing me to join this particular
episode.
I say
thank you for taking your time.
You know, they say politics is a sport. And I think it's true, right? Because, if you're an athlete or you're a marathon runner or you're a tennis player, you're only as good as your last match.
Yes.
Right? Or as long as you're, as your last run. Right?
That's right.
So you can run 10 great runs in your life, but actually the last one is one that counts.
Everyone remembers. Exactly. Yes.
And that's why you have judges, and that's why you have script writers, and like politicians, like runners, politicians have to have personal trainers, and a script writer is a personal trainer.
Wow. Can you see Mr. President in this one? Can you see?
I will reserve my judgment. But, it's a bit like this.
So why you guys prepared him?
Let me just do something a little bit visual.
Here we are with the top 5, and we know that they are the best of the best. Wow. But one thing I like about the top 5 is that they are able to bring in their personal experiences and opinions as leaders into their presentations. And I think for leadership, it's very important to keep in touch with yourself. Yes.
Judge Jerry, when you look at the 5, what do you see?
Everybody has actually picked up something about international relations that has impressed me, which is evidence that their scope has widened.
Yes.
And that this has been an exciting and wonderful journey for them, just as much as it has been for us as judges. So I'm really pleased to be where we are at. I certainly see a Miss President there. I just don't know who it will be.
However, who will not be laughing after this? Stay with us.
We have come to that moment that will decide the fate of someone tonight. Who will stay? Who will be put on probation? Who will be going home?
We are very glad to be at this point in time to have the final 5. Being a top 5 is a privilege, but not just a privilege because you have worked really hard for it, and we've seen that through your journey up to this point in time. I have Judge Njeri and Judge Irungu. I'll now invite our guest judge, Irungu.
Thank you very much, Judge Zippy, and also it's great to be here on this particular episode. A couple of opening remarks. First of all, what I was looking for really in all the presentations was a formula in which you would present presidential speeches that would be familiar and would be endearing. But let me turn to some specific ones. I think Betty, if I can address you first, the focus, well, it was argued extremely well, and I still have spas in my head. I think the important thing is that it was just too narrow as a focus. Harun, if I can turn to you a little bit. You are a president or you are an ambassador. You cannot reference your comments to books. Irene, if I can turn to you also. Your presentation well captured, very well framed, and there was a high level of generation. What I missed a little bit was something that took us into a human story, and that brings me maybe to Neria next. You owned your speech. That's what I liked most about it. You owned it. Please don't spend any time demystifying things. You are the ambassador. State the policy, state the framework, leave us touched, moved, and inspired, and that's what leaves us with the impact of an ambassadorial statement. Let me turn to Anne. You explained extremely well the roles of an ambassador, right? So that was very clear in the presentation. But there were a couple of things that I would probably challenge you on. The important thing about ambassadors is they really must represent the national culture. And in particular, if you think about it, an ambassador is the personal representative of the president of the country in which they serve. So I think this would be my feedback to you in terms of the presentations. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Irungu. That was very informative for you guys, especially coming from his experience and your presentations. I hope you take all that into consideration. Anne Waruguru Kiai. Betty Adera. Nerea Amondi. I'll hand over to Judge Njeri to start.
Thank you, Judge Zippy. Nerea Amondi, please come forward. In just a few words, I'll just pick up one of the things you talked about. Okay. When you talked about leveraging social media to track and improve patient experience, what did you mean?
Social media is an everyday and every minute tool that we use on our phones. And people give feedback on what they're feeling, how they woke up, where they are at. And so using that platform to be able to track the kind of information that they share, to be able to use that as a way of encouraging them to join, for example, a group on Facebook, for example, to share, if, like, you can form for diabetics. This is what we have done today, this is where we are at. And then, of course, knowing what lifestyles they lead, and use that to be able to make a decision or a model that can be able to support them, because that's a chronic disease.
Fair enough. I just feel you've had a lot of experience in many areas, but when it comes to your assignments, you seem to put all of them into your assignment, maybe just to demonstrate the fact that you know what you're talking about. But in the event that you only have 5 minutes, you really must just hit the nail on the head, so that whoever is listening on the other end can clearly see Nerea knows what she's talking about, she's got the experience, but this is where I plug in. So that needs to be more clear.
Yes, much obliged.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Judge Irungu.
Thank you very much. Betty Dera, please take a step. So I'd like to recall the main thrust of your presentation, which was to essentially establish a program called the Sustainable Partnership Arena for Settlement and Support of Kenyans Living in the US, SPAS. The question is a simple one. What trade or political concessions would you give the United States of America for them to implement this program?
What I will offer them is a place where, if they are able to allow Kenyans to be documented, all right, then for those who need to come home, then we are going to support them to come home without being deported in an inhumane way, or without being arrested or given penalties. So we'll make that process actually smoother, for the US government, but by way of also making Kenyans, if they have to come home, then let it be done in a humane way. So we'll help them to find the people that they are actually looking for.
Thank you very much. Very clear responses.
Yeah. Thank you.
And now, Ankiai, in 2 minutes, give us an answer to the question that you were asked. The question I will repeat for you. You have been made Kenya's ambassador to the US. While understanding the role of diplomacy, how will you go about promoting Kenya's interests to the Trump administration during your tour of duty?
So I believe, as a diplomat for my government, that if we were to link what we have as an asset, being a vibrant army, and also complementing the skills and the intelligence of the US government, then we are able to address issues of security and insecurity in the East African bloc. That is number one. Number two, I am very appreciative of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, that is AGOA, which has allowed more than 6,000 businesses from East Africa and especially in Kenya to thrive in the US.
Where did the question go wrong, or where did you go wrong with the question?
I was so focused on demystifying diplomacy, and I think I lost it for a minute, because I would have invested my time and energy in explaining what I know about diplomacy and AR across the world, and both between Kenya and the US. But I spend a lot of time demystifying diplomacy and the roles of a diplomat.
Okay, you can sit down. We'd like to take one more moment to do some cross-examination before we make our final decision. So, Judge Irungu?
So the question we wanted to ask you, each of you individually, is what significant action would you take tomorrow if we send you home today?
What this academy has taught me is the journey of being self-confident, how to believe in yourself, how to rise and learn, and how to look at somebody else who doesn't come from your tribe or from your field, and take something that is actually very beneficial from them and use it to grow yourself. I want to go home and tell them, look, we have to think differently and do things differently for all of us.
I have been able to learn a lot of things that I have often taken for granted. For instance, food security, for instance, communication, for instance, international relations. And now I think the onus is on me to go and share these valuable lessons that I have learned with people in my space. Suffice to say, how do we bring this message down to the grassroots in a way that it makes sense to them, and in a way that ultimately, even if I leave, I can still make an indelible mark in the lives of each and every person who interacts with me.
I'm still willing to go out there and show the mothers of this country that leadership is not something that you do because you're a woman. Not because you're a pregnant woman. You do it because you're passionate about changing your country. And that is what I do. State officer or not, finance manager or not, I put that aside. And I have learned that. I have been inspired and changed tremendously.
Nerea Mondi, we believe that you have so much that you can be able to change and you can be able to use to mentor the youth and to become a great leader. Not just in your personal projects, but in your personal experiences and the works you do and in the networks that you have been able to create in the academy. And we would like to see how you will be able to mobilize people into the campaigns and be able to share the same ideas in a way that they will understand. We would like to give you another chance to go to the next level. Get back to the academy. Betty Adera, if there's anyone who is more passionate about Nairobi City County than you, one thing that comes out very clearly is your work with the youth and your passion with the youth. Even your personal projects and generally even in the assignments that you've been given. And we thought that's a very brilliant perspective because the youth are the future of this country. We have to find a way to be able to empower them and to make them informed of the decisions that they're making. And because of that passion and also clearly because of your oratory skills, we feel that we can give you another chance to be in the academy. Anne Waruguru Kiai. Anne, in the last 10 weeks, you have come out as a very strong character. And it was not like that when you were in the groups. You came out strongly in a way that most of us could not believe. And even for you to be able to be among the top 5 is a journey that we are so proud of. In the recent past, the one thing that we've loved most about your presentations is the way you are able to put in a personal touch into your work. Tell us a story and then tell us about the facts and be able to get into our hearts. And I think for quite a number of times you've been among the best presenters of the day. Today, I don't know what happened. Because it is only today that you have shown us that you did not get the assignment right. We will give you another chance back into the academy. The 5 of you have proved beyond reasonable doubt that you are fit to be a leader in this country and you're fit to be a Miss President. Not just in the academy, but you're fit to be a Miss President for the Republic of Kenya. So when you're going to go to the audience, make us proud.
The thought I've been putting in, the amount of commitment, the effort, I just was not prepared to let it go, especially on the final lap. So being in top 5 means a lot, but it also confirms to me that I'm actually a winner.
It's exciting, and I'm telling myself, wow, Betty, you did it. So all this time you have had what it takes, to get there. So of course there's the feeling of relief. So Kenyans, bring it on.
I'm on top of the world right now. Because it's been quite a journey, as in competing with all those ladies. The top 70, as in everyone was just on top of it. So getting this far and being in the finals is, I don't even have words. It's amazing. It feels really great.
I want to be remembered as this young girl who came from Nyeri County, initially very afraid and unsure of herself in fighting for her space in the academy. But I want to be remembered for having fought and stayed and offered a new way of doing things.
Having to fight and fight and fight, it's a very, very interesting experience. And I think that's what it means to be Miss President.
After a busy and highly charged day at the academy, it is now time to refocus energies and re-strategize on their final leg in the competition. There is a presidential debate coming up and to be live. Yes, you hear me? Live!
What have we learned today? International trade is the exchange of goods and services between countries. Trading globally gives consumers and countries the opportunity to be exposed to goods and services not available in their own countries. International relations encourages travel related to business, tourism, and immigration, providing people with opportunities to enhance their lives. Cooperation occurs when actors adjust their behavior to the actual or anticipated preferences of others through a process of policy coordination. Cultural exchange gives us a chance to appreciate points of commonality and where there are differences, to understand the motivations and humanity that underlie them. We have seen international relations is critical for the success of a nation such as ours, including to contributing to countering violent extremism. Thoughts, opinions, compliments, suggestions ata, tweet us on @media_focus, Facebook ni @mediafocus on Africa, Instagram @mediafocus on Africa. To share your thoughts, we love to hear from you. Today's quote is from Benazir Bhutto. It says, "To make peace, one must be an uncompromising leader. To make peace, one must also embody compromise." Benazir Bhutto, the first woman elected to lead a Muslim state as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. See you next week.